Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into my Cleveland Browns 2022 offseason wish list. It is 10 things I hope the Cleveland Browns do this offseason. Guys, we know the story with the Browns. They have one of the most talented overall rosters in the NFL. Tough year with Baker getting hurt, week 2, playing through injury, a lot of turmoil within the team with the whole Odell situation, but this still is a top roster in the NFL. There are clearly some things we got to change, but let's get into it. Number 1, try an Aaron Rodgers trade. So the first thing I'm going to say when explaining the Browns quarterback situation, it's probably the most confusing in the league because you've got Baker Mayfield on the 5th-year option. He's coming off an injury. How much, did the injury affect his poor play? Some of it was reading the field. How much of it was the injury? Very confusing. So right now they've got Baker. They used the option. He's coming back for his 5th year. But, Andrew Berry, his overall goal is to upgrade the roster. I know they said Baker's our guy, we're sticking with him. They said that because there's no downside in saying it. If you get someone like Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, you can just say, bye-bye Baker, we're going to trade you, this is the business. If you can't get one of those guys, you stick with Baker, you say, yeah, we had confidence, he's our guy. So that's why they said, right after the season, oh, we're sticking with Baker, because there's no downside to it. Now, me personally, I would kick the tires on Aaron Rodgers. I would kick the tires on Russell Wilson and say, listen, we're getting receivers. Make a pitch, see if you can try and trade for either of them. What would they cost? You need to upgrade the roster. As for Baker Mayfield, when healthy, I do think Baker is a fringe top 12, maybe top 10 quarterback in the NFL. We'll see what they get in receivers this year. The Browns, we know they have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. They've got the best running back tandem in the NFL in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. But overall, I've been hearing people say, well, they should trade for Derek Carr. To me, Baker Mayfield when healthy, is just as good, if not better, than Derek Carr. I am not interested at all in trading for Derek Carr if we have a healthy Baker Mayfield. Same thing with Carson Wentz. I don't want Carson Wentz over Baker Mayfield if Baker's healthy. I'm not being a homer about it. Baker just has a higher ceiling. He does. So try and trade for one of the bigger guys if you can. The whole Deshaun Watson thing, I think it's going to take 2 first-round picks to trade for Deshaun Watson. Whether the Browns want to commit to that, there's other legal issues with that, we know. I think the whole thing is going to get cleared, and Watson will probably get traded for 2 first-round picks. The thing will go away, but we'll have to see what happens there. Try and trade for one of the bigger quarterbacks. Not saying you're going to be able to, but you got to kick the tires. Number 2, draft a wide receiver, round 1, Garrett Wilson or Drake London. So the dream scenario for me is the Browns at pick number 13 drafting Garrett Wilson. I think he's by far the number 1 wide receiver, and I also think Drake London is by far the number 2 receiver in the draft. So either of those guys, especially Garrett Wilson, based on what I want the Browns to do in free agency when it comes to the wide receiver position, Garrett Wilson or Drake London in the first round with pick number 13. Use that first round pick, invest it into a receiver. We know the Browns have one of the worst wide receiving cores in the NFL. Number 3, sign a top wide receiver in free agent. Chris Godwin would be amazing, but other guys include Allen Robinson, Will Fuller, Zay Jones is kind of a depth piece. But my dream scenario that I view as very realistic is drafting Garrett Wilson and pairing him with Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson's a bigger receiver. You can pair him with a smaller receiver in Garrett Wilson. Now you've completely remade your wide receiver room. You've still got Donovan Peoples-Jones, Anthony Schwartz. Maybe you sign another one. Maybe you draft another receiver 3rd or 4th round just for more depth. That completely remakes your wide receiver room. I'm very high on Allen Robinson. He played with a rookie quarterback. He played with Andy Dalton. Obviously, his numbers are not going to be too well. He should have a nice bounce back year next year, and I would be looking to committing Allen Robinson to about a 2-year contract personally, and he should be pretty cheap due to his poor year last year. Number 4, re-sign Denzel Ward to a long-term contract. Some of these are going to be obvious towards the bottom. They're going to be more obvious. Denzel Ward is a shutdown corner. We do understand the concussion concerns. They are. There's some legit concerns. If he gets another concussion, what happens? I know he's had several already, but you have to when you invest a 4th overall pick on a cornerback, and now Denzel Ward's a 2-time Pro Bowler in his 4 years he's been in the league. He's a complete shutdown corner. You've got to give him the long-term contract like you did Myles Garrett. You've got to extend him. You're going to have to pay. He's going to cost money, and he does have those concussion concerns, but you just got to do it. You got to keep him. Number 5 might be a little more tough, might be a 50-50 sneaky chance right now, re-sign Jadeveon Clowney opposite Myles Garrett. Jadeveon Clowney is so underrated. He is such a good run defender, gets tons of quarterback pressures, and if we are able to re-sign Clowney, we will not have to use a second or a third round pick in a pass rusher, which we will inevitably have to do if Clowney signs with another team. Now, a lot of this is, will another team want to commit 3 or 4 years, a bigger contract to Jadeveon Clowney? He's been looking for that big contract the past 2 or 3 years. That's why he keeps signing one-year deals with teams. He signed a one-year deal last year with the Titans, was a flop. This past year signs the one-year deal with the Browns, plays really well. What is his market overall? Will the Browns be able to give him a 2, 3, or 4-year contract? Will they be able to commit that much? A lot of this is going to depend on what Jadeveon Clowney's market is. I know he said he wants to come back to Cleveland, but this would be so big for the Browns because not only is he a great player, but you don't have to invest a second or third round pick on a receiver. On a defensive pass rusher. If you re-sign Jadeveon Clowney, you've got your 2-star pass rushers, Myles Garrett and Clowney. You don't have to invest a top pick on a pass rusher. You can use that for other more important needs. Number 6, cut Austin Hooper. So there might be a creative thing you can do with Austin Hooper. I don't know if you guys remember the Brock Osweiler trade where the Houston Texans were contenders and they had Brock Osweiler taking up so much, salary cap space. And if they would have cut Brock Osweiler, they would have had so much dead money. So they trade a second round pick and Brock Osweiler to the Browns, basically telling the Browns, here, just buy the contract. We'll give you a second rounder to buy the contract from us so we have more salary cap space. I almost wonder, can the Browns maybe offer Austin Hooper and a third round pick to a team that's not contending right now to where they get a third round pick for basically nothing and they just have to have Austin Hooper's contract for the next few years? The problem with cutting Austin Hooper right now, he's got a lot of dead money. He does, but he is not worth a roster spot. So it's like you really can't do anything. He is horrible. He's one of the worst tight ends in the league. He's probably the clumsiest tight end in the league. He can't catch anything, and he simply should not be on the roster. The Browns should draft a blocking tight end in round 5 or 6. The Harrison Bryant pick made no sense to me when you've already got David Njoku. You need a blocking tight end. Why are you investing a third-round pick on another pass-catching tight end in Harrison Bryant? It makes no sense to me, but I guess they thought Austin Hooper was that guy. Austin Hooper needs to be cut. He's horrible. There's a lot of dead money. Maybe you try and trade him with a pick to a team so you don't have to deal with cutting him and all of that dead money that comes with it. Number 7, sign a veteran offensive line and or draft one. Maybe not the second round. Maybe the third round. Another thing you could potentially do, there's a linebacker that I really love in the draft, Nakobe Dean. I don't think this is going to happen. I think by the time the draft rolls around, he's going to be a consensus top 10 pick. But if he is there at pick number 13, you could draft Nakobe Dean, pair him with JOK, and then in the second round, draft David Bell, who I am so high on, the receiver from Purdue. I compare him to Cooper Kupp. But signing a veteran offensive lineman, yes, you want to switch. Chris Hubbard's a free agent. You want to get another offensive tackle. I would say draft a project offensive tackle in the 3rd or 4th round of the draft. You need more depth, especially in the offensive tackle position. So that's what I would do there. Number 8, sign a solid defensive tackle. A lot of people want a really good run-stuffing DT. Looking at a 2-year deal, and the guy I would target, Quentin Jefferson, coming off a very productive year, would be going into his, I believe, age 29 season. Get a big defensive tackle. I am high on Tommy Togiai. Kind of redshirted this year, played late, graded out pretty well according to Pro Football Focus. So I am high on Tommy Togiai, but a guy like Quentin Jefferson, add depth. You're going to be losing some big defensive tackles. You need some guys in there. Quentin Jefferson would be a good guy to go out and get in free agency. He wouldn't cost a ton. Number 9, bye-bye Jarvis Landry. So yeah, really interesting with Jarvis. I don't know if it's the injuries, but he really is afraid of contact at this point in his career. Again, I'm guessing it's because of the injuries. You watch him out there, you can see he's trying to get down. He's trying to go out of bounds. He doesn't want to take hits. I understand it. He's had a lot of wear and tear, and at this point, we're going to have to move on from him. And number 10, re-sign David Njoku. This is an elite pass-catching tight end who's ultra-athletic. ultra athletic. I love David Njoku. You guys remember the Chargers game? What did he have, like 180 yards? Like the speed on David Njoku for being as big as he is crazy. I am 100% re-signing David Njoku. He'll probably be a steal based on the numbers he's put up. His market probably isn't going to be that huge. He should be easy to re-sign. So the guys I'm re-signing, David Njoku, Jadeveon Clowney, Denzel Ward, those are the three I'm focusing on. Also, drafting a receiver in the first round, or if Nakobe Dean falls, drafting the linebacker Nakobe Dean, and then drafting David Bell potentially in the second round if you can do that. As for the quarterback position, they're probably going to stick with Baker Mayfield unless you can try and convince Aaron Rodgers that you're getting receivers. You know, I don't know what's going on with Russell Wilson. I don't know what's going on with Deshaun Watson. Again, with Deshaun Watson, it's going to cost you 2 first-round picks. I think that whole situation will get cleared up, and he will get traded for 2 first-round picks this offseason to a quarterback-needy team. Whether or not the Browns want to make that investment into Deshaun Watson is to be determined. But when it comes to a guy like a Derek Carr, that's a linear move. I think Baker Mayfield has a higher ceiling than Derek Carr. I think Baker Mayfield has a higher ceiling at this point than Carson Wentz. Absolutely. Baker's not this great player. He's got his own issues. But overall, I would say he's better than that. We understand Baker Mayfield needs to improve, but it's just tough because we don't know how much of his struggles were the injury and how much of his struggles were poorly reading the field and just being inaccurate. Hopefully the Browns front office, I'm sure they know more than us, which is good, but it is seriously just so tough to gauge right now. And then the other issue, Baker, he's got to get his wife under control. I mean, get her off of social media, please. Good Lord. Some of these quarterback wives are just, oh my God. I think he knows that. Just get her off of social media, please. It's just so annoying. But guys, those are my top 10 things, the Browns offseason wish list, what they need to do. This is a top 5 most talented roster in the NFL. Crazy talented defense. Get Jadeveon Clowney re-signed. Get Denzel Ward re-signed. Crazy good defense. This is going to be a top 5 unit next year. And then with the offense, hopefully Baker Mayfield healthy. Get him some receiving weapons. My ideal wide receiver core next year, you've got the rookie Garrett Wilson, you've got Allen Robinson, you've got Donovan Peoples-Jones, you've got Anthony Schwartz, and then maybe another receiver, maybe someone like Zay Jones who's a free agent for some depth, or you draft another receiver in the 4th or 5th round in the draft. This receiving class has a lot of depth. So that should help the Browns out tremendously. They are very wide receiver needy. They have one of the worst cores in the NFL. But guys, that's gonna do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.